So I got a piece of tape right here on the floor, and that's marking 10 feet to that end of the shop. And over here on the other side, I got another piece of tape, and that's marking 10 feet to that end of the shop. And here's the spot in between. So why does that matter? So let's say you're a woodworker. That means you got tools, and you got a shop, and you know how to do things. And of course your friends know that. So your buddy's like, hey Art, because that's my name. He's like, hey Art, can you give me a hand? Well, of course I'm gonna give you a hand. He's a friend of mine. He's like, yeah, I've got this window seat I need. Can you help me with that? I'm like, sure. How big is it? Hang on. He's gonna go measure it. Sends me a note. 9.5 feet. 9.5 feet long. That's not a little window seat. So if I'm gonna put a window seat in 9.5 feet, I'm starting with 10-foot long boards. And if you're gonna process a 10-foot long board, hang on a second. You need 10 feet on the inside side of your bench. Sorry, 10 feet on the inside side of your table, of your planer or your joiner. And you need 10 feet on the outfeed end of your tool. And then you got the tool in the middle. 10 feet on the right of me, 10 feet on the left of me. Yeah, I got a small shop. Normally it seems pretty big when you're looking with small projects, and normally it's fine, but when you're doing something like this, it could be worse. Table saw is even worse, because for me, my table saw is normally down here, and I have to drag that to the middle. It's really not a big deal. It's just kind of fun to complain about it. I'm usually happy to help out a friend. So, let's get going. Yeah. Making sure there's enough space. Feed, 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 and wow. I think we're good to go. Yeah, you guys with your monster shops and your 12-inch joiners, we kind of hate you sometimes. So I'm getting a little ahead of things here. Obviously, one of the first things I did was go visit the house and take measurements. And I'm sorry about the dark imagery, but it was nighttime and a house under construction, well, they have minimal lighting. I checked the place out and took my own measurements. I also brought a big roll of paper which I unrolled and folded and taped to make a template of the seat. I then brought that template home and used it several times while laying out the boards for the seat. So after wrestling the jointer into the middle of the shop and jointing the boards and then running the planer into the middle of the shop and planing the boards, I also wrestled the table saw into the middle of the shop, and I didn't film that, and I ripped both sides. I wish I had one of those glue and line rip blades, but I don't. I just got my best combination blade that I got, and my jointer is only a 6-inch jointer, so it's only like 42 inches, and I've got 9.5 10-foot boards here. So I'm hoping that everything lines up when it comes to the glue, but there might be some creative additions of sawdust to cracks, but that'll be between you and me. Don't tell them that I'm doing that. Anyways, longtime viewers know how much I like my dowel jig. I use that a lot when I want to align surfaces. The challenge with the dowel jig is it aligns off the end of the board, and then you work your way along. And I'm like, this is nuts with a 10-foot long board. So I actually had to go digging into the cupboards and find my biscuit joiner, because I almost never use it. But yeah, I made marks for where I'm going to put biscuits, which will help with alignment. I just want to make sure that I try to get the surface aligned and as flat as possible. So I put a biscuit about every 16 inches. I hope that's good enough. I put some large other marks on here just to make sure I get my boards in proper alignment. Of course, as normal, I spent a fair bit of time aligning grain and patterns and so on. And now it's time to get going and make a lot of biscuit cuts and then do some gluing. And it's probably still going to be a bit floppy because it's 9 feet long, but yeah. I'm trying to not look at this as a piece of fine furniture. I'm just making a board that's then going to get fitted into a window area on top of some 2x4s. It's not going to be perfectly flat and level. It's going to, match the house, but, I'm going to do my best. So, on with the show. So after gluing up the boards, I went back to the house because I wanted to be absolutely certain about where to cut. So I made another pattern, this time using cardboard to make sure it was stiff and rigid. I then transferred this pattern to my glued up blank and I trimmed it to fit using a circular saw and a cutting guide. I reminded myself a few times that you don't work to 1/16 of an inch in home construction. So I actually cut on the inside of the line when I did this. I was aiming for about 1/8 of an inch gap all the way around, which could later be filled with caulking. And then I was back home for staining and finishing before bringing it back to the house to install it. I also made some stain panels to go below the seats out of oak plywood. And that's about the end of the story. I just really wanted to talk about how it is to deal with a really long project in a modest sized shop. Yeah, one take's good enough.